The unthinkable has happened down under at the Australian Open, and this is the year 2024 where Novak Djokovic's incredible streak comes to an end. He is out, and he's not just out of the tournament, he is out in the semifinals. Shocking, unthinkable, but it has happened, and Jannik Sinner is into the final. On the other half of the draw, something unthinkable and shocking also happened. Daniil Medvedev went down 2-0 again and came back, found a way to win against a much more quality opponent in Sasha Zverev. Amazing thing there. Now, you might notice my shirt. I'm a Big Three guy. Last time I checked, only one guy from the Big Three is still winning, and that means Djokovic is my guy, and he is out. It is always hard to do these videos when my guy is out of the tournament, especially in the way that it happened. And normally we don't talk about the people who lose the matches as much as we talk about the people who win the matches. But I think Djokovic has earned it, and today's show we'll spend a lot of time talking about that. But first, let's look ahead to the final. Medvedev and Sinner. Let's go to a comment, actually. This is from Sporter. If I were you, I would rapidly change flag and become a Karota boy ASAP so you can have many years of nice videos from the winner's perspective. The funny thing about that is that guy might not remember, but many of you, comment below if you're one of them, may remember for years I've been big on Jannik Sinner. I've been saying he's my pick out of the future generation, out of the younger guys. Alcaraz kind of overshadowed him not long after I started saying that. But I used to call him, if you remember, I used to call him the golden child or the chosen one. And then last year, I think was probably early last year, I was still saying that a little, but I stopped. And that was because of all the matches I saw, even going back to a U.S. Open match against Karen Khachanov. I remember watching, they're on like court 67 on some little court, and I was watching it on the ESPN Plus app where you can watch every court and see tiny matches that most people don't pay attention to, because I was so interested in this guy, Jannik Sinner, and I thought he was so talented. And there was two reasons I started calling him the golden child, started calling him the chosen one. I retired the name temporarily last year after so many losses where it just looked like he lost his legs. And I said, until this guy beefs up his legs, gains some weight or something, he's not going to be able to play 4 or 5 hour matches against the best players in the world, best out of 5-set matches and win these things. Obviously, it looks like whatever they've been doing is working. There's more to it than that. I think a lot of it had to do with Djokovic not being anything close to what we would expect. I mean, I thought, I was nervous going into that match. I thought Djokovic could lose to Sinner, but I thought it'd be more like what we saw at Wimbledon with Alcaraz last year. Not anything like what we saw, especially in those first 2 sets. That was shocking. Anyways, though, looking ahead, there was 2 reasons I started liking Sinner so much. One of them was in the 2020 fall edition. Remember, they changed Roland Garros that year. The French Open was played later in the year in October. And many people, many experts, myself included, thought this is really going to help Djokovic win. And Nadal thumped him in the final. Beat him really bad, actually. And the reason people thought Djokovic would win is because in these colder conditions, Nadal's ball is not going to jump, from the big topspin forehand off the clay like normal. And that's going to really help Djokovic, drive through the court and, change the way Nadal's going to play. Nadal came out so hyper-aggressive that he shocked Djokovic and the world. Well, you may remember earlier in that tournament, maybe there was the quarterfinal stages, I think Sinner had beat Zverev, surprised him, and then he goes on to, I think Nadal didn't lose 1 set in that whole tournament. But the only match, including the Djokovic final, where it felt like Nadal could lose, was in danger, was when he played Sinner. Very young Sinner, comes out crushing the ball, and really making Rafa worry a little bit, making Rafa work very hard. I think Rafa won that match something like 7-6 or 7-5, 7-5, 6-3, something like that. But those first 2 sets, Jannik Sinner was right there, and the way he hit that ball really, really impressed me. And even before that match, I liked him, and the biggest reason is because, and it's ironic, the 2 guys in this final where Djokovic goes down for the first time in the semis are the 2 guys who are the most like Djokovic's game on the tour, I think, especially Sinner, and that is the main reason why I always thought Sinner would be able to do it. I wanted to see a Federer style of play rise to the top, a true, pure attacking style. But it turned out that it was the Djokovic hybrid style. And I say that because, and this is where Sinner reminds me of Djokovic the most, there was a stat, we used to show it a lot on the show. It's been years since I saw it, but there was like a heat chart, and it showed where the footwork was happening the most on the court. And there was a pattern that emerged from the big three. And Rafa was like this, backing up. Here's the baseline. And Rafa's making this shape. It's an arrow going towards the baseline. Because he is backing up in a way, cutting off angle of balls going out and further back. And Federer was the opposite. He was this way. He's moving in and he's cutting off angles, moving in, out to the sides like that. When he gets stretched to the sides, he's moving forwards and to the side to get to a ball, whereas Nadal is backing up, making this shape. And Djokovic's footwork pattern, where he spends the most time with his feet when he's in rallies, was a combination of the both. They had both of them together because Djokovic really mastered, the best of both worlds. In a way, Djokovic is kind of like Nadal and Federer put together, because Djokovic can step in with his incredible timing and take the ball very early to be, in pure offensive mode. But he also can back up and go into, lockdown mode, as they say, when Djokovic never loses a tiebreak. He can go into like a containment mode where nothing you hit will get past him. He's going to get your best balls back. And then when he has a chance, he'll switch this one off and go into that and take the ball earlier and finish you off, put a lot of pressure on you. Well, Jannik Sinner reminds me the most of that. His movement, and maybe it's because they both were skiers. Jannik Sinner was training to be an Olympic skier. Their balance, the way they slide on hard courts, Medvedev right there too, but you don't see Medvedev moving in quite as much. He hangs back a little more, although, they all do it, especially even Nadal now. The older he gets, the more injuries he's had, the more aggressive he is, and the more he tries to get in and take the ball earlier as well. But Jannik Sinner, the way he slid around the court, it reminded me the most of Djokovic, except the big difference being he's a little taller and he hits the ball harder. Jannik Sinner for years, even since he was very young, has been one of the biggest hitters on the tour on the ground strokes. His serve, I don't know if he's hitting the spots as well as Djokovic now. I haven't seen that graphic we like to show here, who's hitting close to the lines and the corners the most on their serve. But I think he's going to be able to bang the serve bigger, hit bigger than Djokovic. His serve's gotten a lot better, and he can hit that forehand and backhand harder than anyone on tour. So I always knew if Sinner could perfect that lockdown mode, and the one thing that was missing was the legs going out from under him, I always thought that Sinner could maybe be the one who wins the most out of this batch of young players. Just imagine someone like Djokovic playing like Djokovic, going in the lockdown mode, not missing anything with the incredible movement and the long wingspan, being able to be on the full stretch and hit an incredible backhand, sliding into a split. Imagine someone who can do that, who also hits the ball harder than everyone else on tour. Still a lot of talk about how in this match against Djokovic, again, I know Djokovic didn't look like himself at all. If he could have just got the ball in a little bit, even his backhand was letting him down. How many times did you see Djokovic miss a backhand? It was just shocking to see him miss so many backhands that look like backhands he would normally make. A lot of credit should go to Sinner because he's hitting a big ball, and Djokovic must have felt when he came out there like, man, I haven't been my best this whole tournament, and now I got this guy in front of me. And I think he did press a little in those first two sets, is why he had so many unforced errors. It's like Djokovic tried to force his best game on right away because he sensed all that coming across the net from Jannik Sinner. So it's a lot of people have been saying that Sinner, maybe would go for finishing balls too early. Maybe that's something to do with his legs, not trusting that his legs can go 5 hours in a big match like this. But they would say, Sinner would go for it too soon and that his serve was a problem. Serve is definitely looking better. And now, as we saw in that match, Sinner never really had to go for the winner early. He just went into lockdown mode like Djokovic until the opportunity was there. And then he went big, and he didn't miss very much at all. Let's look at this, though. Let's talk superstition, because I think Jannik Sinner, I always say the golden child, the one who has destiny on his side, the chosen one. Well, let's look at some superstitious things here. Tennis legend, Instagram account. Well, first this one. This is a silly one. I joked earlier in the tournament that Taylor Fritz would need to start wearing glasses if he wanted to have a chance to beat Djokovic. Well, I forgot that. Take a look at these guys. The last guys to beat Djokovic had glasses on, obviously with Istomin and Hyun Chung. I forgot that Jannik Sinner off the court wears glasses. So he had that going for him. But take a look at this one. This is really shocking. They asked Sinner about this in the press conference, and he just laughed and he said, "I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say. It's not like I believe in magic or something. I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you." But this is what he was asked about. 2,195 days after Djokovic lost, he never lost again until 2017 Wimbledon, Birdman, Tomas Berdych. He loses 2,195 days later after winning every time at Wimbledon since then to Carlos Alcaraz. And what happens? Well, it just happens to be, since he lost to Hyun Chung here, his next loss to Sinner, 2,195 days apart. But let's look at this one. This one, to me, is actually kind of meaningful. Blogger of Tennis Instagram account. Roger Federer won the first Grand Slam at Wimbledon, 2003, on his 17th attempt in a Grand Slam, right? It was the 17th time he had entered a Grand Slam tournament, and he won. Jannik Sinner is in Melbourne, and he is playing in his 17th Grand Slam. It's pretty crazy. To me, especially because Roger Federer, many people kind of thought he almost had missed his window. He said he was a wasted talent. He couldn't put it all together. For whatever reason, he has all this talent, and his window's closing. Back then, they expected you to win at a younger age if you were going to start being, a great legend like they thought. A lot of people thought, this guy's very talented. He's going to start winning lots of majors. And when he finally did, the rest is history. We know what happened. No one beat him until Nadal and Djokovic. He just kept winning everything. With Jannik Sinner, I kind of felt the same way. Last year I thought it's a shame. This guy looks like he has everything you need to be kind of like Djokovic and start winning everything. It looks like he could have the game that could be unbeatable. And then I started to give up on him last year, saying, this guy's got some kind of issue with his legs, until he beefs him up. I don't see him winning majors with the way things have been going. And now on this 17th chance, I think there's a very good chance that Sinner will I'll make my final prediction later. I think there's a very good chance that Sinner can win tomorrow. And if he does, if he finally makes it click, maybe he's going to do something like Roger Federer and go on to win a whole lot of these freaking things.
Oh, what is hardcore? I'm a specialist.
Ciao, moje serbski prijatelji. Kako ste? Me? Ja sam loše. I'm very sad indeed, but I am happy to be here. Sad my guy's out, but happy that my guys are in. My next-gen guys. Medvedev's actually, what is he? He's next-gen, and Sinner's from the next gen. We will get into that a little bit, but first, let's talk about what happened with Novak Djokovic in that Sinner match. Like I said before, Sinner played great. He showed us some things he hadn't shown before, but Djokovic didn't really test him. So I'm not 100% sure about the legs. If I have to, pick right after I watch that match, that upset where Sinner beats Djokovic, I say Sinner in 4 over Medvedev, especially knowing that Medvedev's played like 21 hours on court and Sinner's played like a total of 14 hours on court, something like that. Big difference. But Djokovic really didn't show up, and I'm going to play a clip of something Patrick Mouratoglou said, which is very interesting. And Djokovic didn't really show up and didn't press him enough. It was interesting. Djokovic started hitting drop shots at one point in the match. It almost felt like maybe Team Djokovic had been, thinking the same thing I was thinking, like, let's make this guy run and see if we can take his legs away. Because, just going baseline, rallies, it wasn't working for Djokovic. Djokovic said himself here, I played the worst Grand Slam matches I've ever played. And in fact, it is. Take a look at this. This is the fewest games Djokovic has ever won in the first 2 sets of a match at the Australian Open since 19 years ago when he played his very first Australian Open. This is a real beatdown, I hate to say, but look at the stats here. I mean, it's just more proof that something was up with Djokovic. Sinner and Rublev, right? Straight sets, pretty comfortable win for Sinner. Some great rallies. 115 points to 103. 12-point difference in what feels like, pretty much like a beatdown. Not a total beatdown, but a solid win, a comfortable win for Sinner. It's only 12 points more for Sinner in, that he won than Rublev. Let's look at this one. Medvedev, amazingly, has done it again. He lost, like Djokovic in the 2019 Wimbledon final, winning over Federer. He lost more points than his opponent. Medvedev winning 161 points to Zverev winning 165. And even though Djokovic won a set, 98 points won by Djokovic to 128 points won by Jannik Sinner. That really is like a beatdown. Here's a stat to look at. 52% first serves won from Djokovic in the first 2 sets. That's a shocking number. Hitting the spots pretty well, you can see from here. Went at the body once. Maybe he did that on purpose. I don't know if that was a miss, on the ad side. Maybe he was just trying something different on there. But he changed it up in the 3rd set. And really, the serve was only thing that seemed to work for Djokovic in the entire match. It felt like maybe he knew he wasn't at his best this whole tournament. He felt the ball coming across the net, the heavy ball from Sinner. Felt, how shots he was hitting that were good, that would put him in business against someone else, weren't doing anything against Sinner because of things like what I talked about earlier, where Sinner's movement is so much like Djokovic, how he can, contain your best stuff and then step in and attack you, and the power that comes off of his strings. I think Djokovic really felt the need to press, and that's why we saw 54 unforced errors and a whole lot of them coming in the first two sets. Djokovic not hitting anything well except for the serve maybe, and even there he probably could have served better. But look at what he did. He started going out wide a lot more, going from in the third set compared to first and second set, 73% deuce court up the tee, 27% out wide, 53% tee in the ad, 40% out wide. He goes, all of a sudden he's 59% out wide, going from 27 to 47 out wide in the deuce court. So I think, that was just, and he goes up to 79% first serve one. I think that was a pretty obvious play for Djokovic. Like, let's just see if we can, do a serve +1 and focus on nothing else. Get the ball out wide. That is your best chance to take the next ball early and go the other way with it. That obviously worked, but he never had a break point, which is just shocking. Look at the third set stats. These are not normal stats, even though he won the set. You could argue, he's still getting outplayed. Look at the first serve and second serve %1 numbers, 79 and 45 versus Sinner's 89 and 59. Sinner only had one break point, which came pretty early in that set, and Joker played a great point to save it. It was a hard match to watch, I think, not just for a Djokovic fan, but it was just shocking. It was just a really shocking match, and it makes you wonder, if there was any kind of issues with, he'd had a cold, he'd gotten over the cold. Sometimes you get over a cold and you feel fine in your normal life, but if you play tennis and you get on the court, you realize you just don't have as deep of an energy reserve. Who knows? I don't want to make too many excuses, but I just don't think that we're going to see. I'm sure we'll see Sinner and Djokovic play again in a major, and I don't think we'll see Djokovic play like that again. I think it's highly unlikely we'll see him play that bad. Anyways, I want to play for you after some time. After some time thinking about this loss, I started thinking something that I heard Patrick Mouratoglou say, maybe better than I'm going to be able to say. So let's just play what he said.
I would not be surprised if Novak would feel relieved after that tournament. He didn't realize how heavy that was on his shoulders. So that was very shocking to see Novak in a semi-final of a Grand Slam being so unable to play. And Djokovic played a match that is one of the worst I've seen from him. He wasn't there. He was definitely not on that court on that day. I think one of the keys is the end of last season, the fact that Sinner beat him 2 times. And I think the last time was the most painful because we know how Davis Cup is important for Novak. That's probably the number one explanation for Sinner being able to play such a good match and Djokovic being unable to play that match. Now I have something that I want to share. When Novak played against Manarino, he was up 6-love, 6-love, 1-love. And he played a bad game and he lost the game. And what struck me is what he said after the match.
I almost felt like, it's good to give away the game, just to be able to reset and refocus.
Think about it. He didn't lose one match at the Australian Open since 2018. He never lost a semi-final at the Australian Open. He won 10 titles here. Can he continue on that trend? No, it's too much. It's too much pressure. And I've seen that even in champions. When it's too much pressure, sometimes they need to fail, and in a way they feel relieved. And not now, he's probably too disappointed, but after a few days, wow, that was so heavy. I come back to a normal pressure, the pressure I'm used to, which is the pressure of being number one and the greatest player of all time. But this was, I feel, too much for him. I still think that Novak is going to win 2 to 3 Grand Slams this year.
This year? Patrick Mouratoglou thinks Joker's going to win 2 to 3 this year. I mean, when he first said that, when I first saw that clip, I was thinking he was going to say, I still think Joker's going to win 2 to 3 in his career. He said 2 to 3 this year. Comment below if you agree. I think going into this year, I felt very confident Joker would win the Australian. I thought there was a good chance he wouldn't win the French this year. And I felt very confident he'd come back with a vengeance at the Wimbledons and win Mr. Wimbledon's Cup. And then the U.S. Open, kind of a toss-up like the French. He'll be a favorite at both of them. He could definitely win. But I thought Australian Open and Wimbledon were pretty much locks this year. I still am giving Djokovic a great chance to win at the Wimbledons and a pretty good chance at the French Open too. Anyways, let's listen to him.
Novak, you mentioned the entire 2 weeks you felt like you haven't been at your best. You're 36 years old now. Does it feel like you're finally starting to play at your own age after such an insane period, and this younger generation are at your level, or is it just an off tournament?
Let's see. We don't know. I still have high hopes, for the slams and Olympics and whatever tournaments that I'll play. It's just the beginning of the season. It's not the feeling that I'm used to. I mean, it kind of has been incredibly satisfying for me, to start off most of my seasons with a Grand Slam win and never lost in semis or finals of Australian Open. So this time it's a bit different, but it is what it is, and let's see. I don't know. This tournament hasn't been, as I said, up to my standard or criteria or the level that I would normally play or expect myself to play, but doesn't necessarily mean that it's beginning of the end, as some people like to call it. But yeah, let's see what happens in the rest of the season.
Let's see. Indeed. I don't think it's the beginning of the end, but I do think it's the beginning of a new era where we still see Djokovic winning majors, but we don't see him win all of them. And we don't see the big three in the finals anymore. Just like, we're going to see that. This is the first time since whatever we don't see big three. And then it'll be, now it's been years since we've seen a member of the big three in a final. It's been this many years since a big three member who was not named Djokovic was in a final. And then eventually Djokovic will retire, and it'll totally change from the big three era. But we're still in a little bit of it, because I think Joker can still win multiple slams, just like Patrick Mouratoglou was saying. However, now we're going to start seeing guys stack up some numbers who aren't from the big three. It's not like a shocking thing to say. It's pretty obvious. Father Time is undefeated, but as Djokovic said, I don't think it's the beginning of the end yet. I think there's still some greatness that we're going to witness from Novak Djokovic. Anyways, let's move on from Novak. It's a shame we don't get to do my Djokovic song this time. I had a great one for you guys. But I'm confident later this year, Joker's going to grab probably Wimbledon time, my favorite time to make videos. We're probably going to be able to break that song out then. Anyways, Medvedev and Sinner, my favorite guys, now they're playing. Let's look at how Medvedev got here. He made an adjustment, just like Joker. Things weren't working set 1 and 2 on the serve. He changed it in set 3 and found a way to win it. Well, things weren't working on the return as well for Medvedev in set 1 and 2, set 3, 4, and 5 as well. Take a look at an adjustment. He dropped back. I think this will come into play a little bit with Sinner. Sinner's serving well, and Medvedev is going to have some break points. I don't see how he's not. I don't see how Joker had no break point opportunities, but Medvedev's definitely going to. Whether he decides to play back or move up, I think it's a good thing that he's been experimenting with the return positions. I think he should have tried this years ago. It makes it harder to prepare to play him. It makes it harder to serve against him. One thing that always has bothered me as a tennis player, I remember one time I was playing a doubles match and we were up like 6-0, 4-2 or something like that. And we lost. And the one thing that really turned it for me, my partner was playing pretty well from beginning to end. I was playing pretty good in the beginning, and then I played terrible. And they changed their formation. They went into a normal doubles. This guy's serving. This guy's at the net. I'm about to have the serve come to me. I'm in the deuce court. And this guy's at the net. All of a sudden, I always play ad. So I was in the ad. Sorry, I got that backwards. I was in the ad. This guy's serving to me. And I love my backhand. My backhand has always been good and reliable for me. Like Djokovic. I've always been able to just go cross-court backhands with somebody for a long time and not worry about missing. And then all of a sudden, they did this I formation thing. And that one change, that one different look got so in my head that my favorite shot I couldn't even hit anymore. I couldn't hit backhands in. And they just did one thing with where they positioned themselves on the court, and it really got in my head. When someone steps in really close on my second serve over the years, if they get close to take it early, it's insulting that they're not respecting my second serve, And I would double fault a lot. Little movements and adjustments. Someone moves back, moves up, things like that. It can get in your head, and it can be distracting. These guys are pro tennis players. It's not going to be as distracting as it was for me in that doubles match, maybe. But I think it'll make Sinner think, and I think that's a good sign that he's doing this. It obviously worked against Zverev. Looking at stats, the first couple sets, it's not like Zverev or Medvedev were playing amazing. But Zverev really, Medvedev's really not playing that well. 51% serves in. It was kind of felt like the Djokovic match a little bit the way this thing started out. Except he was able to win the third and keep going with another tiebreak in the fourth. And I kind of thought, here we go with the Djokovic match. Not to go back to that match, but just for a second, I thought after Djokovic won that third set, normally you would think, here we go. He's down 2-0 and he's going to come back like Djokovic always does, especially these young guys. But it felt different. The way nothing was working for the first 2 sets. The fact that he still hadn't seen a break point. The fact that, you felt like he almost stole that third set, which he must have, losing so many less point. Sinner won 30 more points. That really, in tennis numbers, you saw how that Rublev match, 12 points more won by Sinner. And it looks like, pretty much a straight sets, comfortable win for Sinner. 30 points is a huge, huge difference in tennis. When you lose 30 points more than your opponent, you're getting beat really badly usually. Anyways, when I saw that, going back to that moment, normally I would have thought, okay, here we go. Djokovic is about to do it. And I was thinking, no, the only way Djokovic is going to do this is if he gets in another tiebreak. And it's going to be really hard the way things have just been going this whole match. And I was right. I couldn't see it happening. Even I was hopeful, but when he went down that early break in the fourth set, you just thought, especially after being up 40-love, it was a weird match. So many times it felt like Sinner's doing to Djokovic what Djokovic always does to people. And that makes sense because, like I said, he's the closest thing we have to the Djokovic game, except he can hit the ball harder. Anyway, so Medvedev really stepped it up, getting his serve in a lot more, winning way more after those first 2 sets. It's been interesting to see Medvedev look tired, look worn out, look like he's hopeless, and then turn it on and be so good. Medvedev, we forget that this guy has been getting better and better. He was the first of next gen, of any gen, not big 3 gen, to win a major. His first guy in his 20s to win a major in a long time. I guess since Marat Safin. I'm trying to think who has won since Juan Martín del Potro in 2009. That was the last time a guy who wasn't like in his 30s had won a major, right? It was the last time a young guy had taken one from the big 3. So Medvedev was the first one to do it. So we forget Medvedev, he's getting better too. And he said he feels stronger than ever. So this is actually, look at this. We talked about it earlier, but that's a big gap. Okay, so about 21 hours, we're rounding up to 21, we're rounding down to 14. 7-hour difference. That's a big deal, but as Medvedev said, he feels the strongest he ever has. Hit the music. We're going to get out of here. I'm going to say Sinner wins this in 4 sets. It feels like destiny is back on his side. Maybe even in straight sets he could do it, just looking at those hours spent on court. But if this thing goes 5, I'm going Medvedev. Mark my words. If it goes 5, Medvedev. And I don't think we've seen the last of Sinner losing his legs. And I say that because even though he beat Djokovic and did the unthinkable here, he's the favorite now, so there's more pressure on him. He's played way less time. Medvedev has already, a lot of people thought he was out. Mary Jo Fernandez was saying when Medvedev was against Hubie Hurkacz, saying, he'd already had a really long match. And usually these guys that spend so much time on court, every match has been kind of a battle for Medvedev here. Even going back to the first round, I think was kind of a tricky 4-setter for him. Every match has been a battle, and she said usually these guys who are spending all these times in earlier rounds getting in long battles aren't the guys who win it. And he keeps shocking us. He might be able to do it again. Djokovic wasn't able to test Sinner's legs. Medvedev, I think, will be able to test Sinner's legs. I don't think Medvedev is going to miss a lot of backhands. And take a look at this. I was at Rotterdam last year in the final, and I brought a clip from that match. You can see in this clip, Rotterdam plays way slower. It looks like when the ball bounces, it almost like stops moving compared to so I think that's, honestly, this was a better, even though Medvedev won this was a better court for Sinner because, they'll get in these long rallies and then Sinner has the firepower to break through the slow court. And take a look in this rally, you'll see that. And here we go in one of these backhand-to-backhand rallies that Medvedev just doesn't miss. But Sinner is able to, ramp it up, take it early. There he is. He moves in. And, this is a really cool tournament. It was really fun to go there. Take a look at this stadium. It is one of the coolest tournaments on tour. Anyways, Medvedev was able to play a lot of points like that, a lot of long, we saw, God, think about that match with Zverev last night. There was a 50-shot rally and then a 40-shot rally. A lot of points like that in Rotterdam. And Sinner wins the first set, and he's looking good in the second set. And then all of a sudden, Medvedev wins that second set. The third set was very easy for Medvedev because it looked like Sinner all of a sudden he didn't have his legs. His legs were gone. His legs are beefier now. But I think the court being faster at the Australian Open, definitely faster than that. We can argue about what's a faster surface on hard courts comparing, the different tournaments. But Rotterdam, you can see in that clip, it can play. It plays very slow compared to the Australian Open court here. So I think that's another edge for Medvedev. Obviously, Sinner coming off this win over Djokovic, it just feels like it's his destiny now to win this thing. He hasn't dropped a set. It's hard to pick, but I'm making a split pick. If it is a 3 or a 4-set match, it is Sinner. If it is a 5-set match, it is Medvedev. I know that doesn't make sense, the guy who's played the longest, but that's what I think will happen. We will be back tomorrow, or maybe Monday. It won't take me that long because the massive project, making a music video that I thought I was going to be doing for Djokovic's win here, is not happening. It's been put on hold until maybe Wimbledon, maybe, who knows, maybe never. Maybe Djokovic, maybe it is the end. Maybe it is the beginning of the end, but I don't think it is. Do comment below what you think, and we'll be back after we know who the winner is in this first Australian Open final without a member of the Big Three in almost 20 years. Unbelievable. See ya!